Welcome back inside the Mandalay Bay Events Center in Las Vegas. Continuing speed coverage of the 4th annual Barrett Jackson Collector Car Auction presented by Bridgestone. There are the last 3 vehicles to cross the block. A little bit about them and what they brought. With Matt Stone, Mike Joy, Steve Bignante, and Rick DeBrule, I'm Bob Varsha. Now center stage is lot 345, a special edition Barrett Jackson Shelby GT 2008.
Bob, I have some very first-hand experience with these cars, as I've got one at home almost identical to it. Mine is not a Barrett Jackson edition. Mine is painted Vista Blue with silver stripes, but otherwise an identical car to this one with a 5-speed, 4.6-liter motor and all the Ford Racing and Shelby GT stuff that this one has on it. They made 100 of these red and black Barrett Jackson edition models. This is number 18 of it. Otherwise, a naturally aspirated Shelby GT in every other way. And I'll tell you, I love driving this car. This is my travel car. And if you buy this one, you'll love it too.
Well, yeah, this one, of course, has the 4.6-liter 3-valve, naturally aspirated. Again, no problem there. 300 horsepower in stock trim. The cold air kit from Ford Racing and Performance Parts probably adds another 10 or 15 horse when you're moving down the road. Again, cooler intake charge is denser intake charge, more horsepower as a result. And again, this is number 18, as you say, of only 100 of these cars ever built.
Bidder assistant Tim Asseter has his whistle at the ready.
You know, Steve, if I may finish that thought, the exhaust system and X-pipe and everything else that they have done to these, including the intake and the reflash on the engine management, they rated these at 325 horsepower over the stock 300, and that feels about right. 318 to 325 is ballpark for this naturally aspirated 3-valve 4.6.
You know, of course, Ford Engineering does a thorough job when they re-engineer a car. In 05, when these Mustangs came out, the 8.8 rear axle stayed put, but they went from 28 to 31 splines because this motor actually had enough power to start braking 28 spline axles. So again, 31 splines, which is something you would have found only in 428 Mustangs and Bosses back in the 60s and early 70s. So heavy-duty stuff, not going to break.
And that axle that you just mentioned, Steve, the rear ratio on these are 355s. They swapped them for shorter rear gears, so they'd come off the line a little harder. And believe me, you give up no mileage or no freeway cruisability with that shorter rear gear. Just works perfectly with this engine.
There's a bidder up at the skybox. Watching the ticker, looking for his rivals down on the floor.
You know, viewers might be wondering, when we're talking about spline count, what does that mean? Well, actually, it's an indication of root diameter of the shaft of the axle. Generally speaking, the more splines, the larger the root diameter. In other words, the greater the strength of the axle shaft.
If you bought another Shelby GT in 2008 that was black, you got silver stripes. The only way to get black with red is to have bought this Barrett Jackson edition. Well-equipped car. I see the HID headlights up front, satellite radio, so this one's got just about all you could get on it back then.
Another cool detail, of course, is the rockers here inside. You open the door, and again, only these Barrett Jackson edition cars will have this brushed aluminum Barrett Jackson plate. Nice detail.
And that little tiny number is the serial number of the car. I apologize, Bob.
That's okay. I think our bidder up at the skybox washed his hands of the deal. Looks like fist in the air means I'm with the lead bidder.
I am not disappointed at that price, but mine is not for sale either.
Looks like that gentleman jumped in right at the last possible moment. That's James Grant, the bidder assistant. Oh, that's the gentleman we thought was out. We see it so often. He reconsiders, gets back in, and he gets the car for $45,000.